Hi, and welcome to Looks Good From Here, the show where we talk to designers, educators, and creative thinkers shaping what the web looks like and what it really takes to get there. I'm Hannah from SquareKicker, and in each episode, we go beyond the scroll to uncover the stories, decisions, and the messy middle behind the beautiful work. Today, I am chatting with the lovely Kelsey Gilbert-Kreiling, co-founder of Week at the Website, author of Squarespace from Sign Up to Launch, and one of Inc. magazine's Female Founders 500. Kelsey has earned that recognition from building about 1 million websites across all sorts of industries, from nonprofits to hospitality to lifestyle brands, while increasing her studio's revenue. She has led her team through big growth, creative evolution, and high impact work, all while staying grounded in the unique Week of the Website process that powers everything they do. In this episode, we're going to talk about scaling, building venture-driven teams, and what it takes to quite literally write the book on Squarespace. Welcome, Kelsey. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am blushing over that intro. Genuinely, that was so lovely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm happy to read it to you as you fall asleep each night if you'd like.
You know what? You could record it. You don't have to do it every night because I know we're kind of off on our time zones. So it might be very disruptive to your day.
Yeah, a bit hard to do it live, but yeah. Amazing. Hey, thanks so much for spending the time. I know you are enormously busy. So I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and share some of your insights, share some of your wisdom, and hopefully we can bring some value to people that are listening today.
Yeah, this is such a special community. So I'm always happy to chat about the journey.
It really is, isn't it? There is something amazingly unique about the Squarespace community. And I think every time we do any of these kind of conversations or we want to talk about the Squarespace community, everyone's like, pick me. I want to talk about it because it is such a special thing to be a part of.
It's weird. I mean, I don't think that other builder communities are similar. They overlap, but even just like the unique ways that folks are excited to jump in and cheer each other. Someone was asking recently, who are your biggest competitors? And I was like, I don't really have an answer to that question because everyone here is a puzzle piece. It all fits together. That there's no sense of we're fighting over this client or that client. We all serve really beautiful and distinct groups, and it's just always fun to see all that come together.
Yeah, it's such a good way of putting it. Yeah. How do you want to give us a little bit of a rewind into the start of your story and how you became a part of the Squarespace community? What brought you into making websites and maybe particularly into making websites with Squarespace?
Yeah. So I actually went to school for fashion design. So it was Project Runway school. Really?
Yes.
That's amazing. I love it. So you know exactly what it's like. Yes. And we both have degrees in ironing primarily.
Pretty
and
much.
Stepping on pins.
And scissor work. Yeah.
Scissor work. Yes. So I came to design with a different angle, right? This very tactile experience. And, had a really great, artistic education. But while I was there, I started an online fashion publication and I was kind of bouncing between New York and Chicago, covering different fashion events because I just liked it. I felt passionate about it. I was interested in it and no one told me I couldn't. So because of that, I ended up developing
for life.
Right? There's, a lot of things you can or can't do in this world and why not? So I just would remember sitting in front of my computer being who's going to be at Fashion Week? Okay, now I'm going to use Google to find their email addresses and send them a request for an invitation and they would just send them. So I would go.
Wow.
And
so cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun thing. Great early career skill. And so when I left school, I decided I was going to continue kind of doing that publication full time. Long story short, I ended up realizing that going from college to working for myself was just very intense. Freelancing without having a lot of professional experience is challenging. And so I wanted to kind of take a step back and ended up working at a digital agency in Chicago doing their social media for their clients, which is fun and funny. And I'm not a huge social media person now, so it was interesting, but I was the vice president of social media. It was a great, title. Went from there to a hospitality group where I started an online food publication for them. So at that point was like going around the country, interviewing different chefs and bartenders and restaurateurs. Because again, you know, the digital was kind of like the hop, skip, and a jump. Is like, if I can interview people about clothes, there's no reason I can't interview them about food. And so spent some time in that area and ultimately ended up building websites for restaurants in this hospitality group, kind of as like the other side of my job. So I was running this online publication, and then they were like, hey, can you build a website for our new like concept we're opening? I definitely probably should have said no because it was not in my job description. But sometimes saying yes to things that are not in your job description will find you like 12 years later with an entire company.
I love it.
And believe it or not, the first site that I built for them was on Tumblr because they had no money to spend. They wouldn't let me hire a dev. And I was like, it's got to be something I can do. So we built it on Tumblr, and it was fine for a while. And then the next site that they wanted to build, I was like, okay, I feel a little limited by the design functionality here. And ended up building it on Squarespace for them. So built websites for them for their properties. And then eventually a friend in the industry called and was like, hey, I work for another restaurant group. We need someone who can do what you do to redo all of our restaurant websites. And I had started thinking about the idea of a business with my former business partner, Mallory. And at that point we were like putting together a business plan, but I had no plans to like leave my job for a while. She had 2 fashion boutiques. Like this was like a year out. And I just remember on the phone being like, yeah, let me like look through my Rolodex and send you some names. Hung up the call, immediately called Mallory and was like, we should just pitch this for fun. We should just like pitch it and see what happens. We're not going to get it, but it's good practice, right? Like just ride the bike, just try it.
Good attitude. Wow. I love that.
I mean, in that case, like I had nothing to lose. There's like, I had another job and I knew it was something that we were going to eventually be doing. So I just thought of it as practice. And yeah, we ended up getting the job.
Of course you did.
So we had a check before we had a bank account, and it was one of those like, oh, well, we really caught the car on that one, didn't we? Like now we have to be an agency.
I guess we're in business. Wow. Amazing.
I guess we're in business. And actually that restaurant is like right down the street. I pass it basically every Sunday when we go to the farmer's market. I went there to lunch there recently. So like they're very much still in our orbit. And 10 years later, ended up just doing another like massive project with someone who was actually at that company when we built the first site ever. So it was like a nice like 10-year, you know, circle closed of like first project and then this, you know, next big phase for us. So
yeah. So you had a job and then you thought, hey, I'm going to randomly pitch this as practice. Surprise, you won the pitch. Did you then quit your job straight away? Did you do this as like a little side hustle? What was that transition?
I did end up quitting the job, but I got that client on like a retainer so that it was a bit of a transition. That employer was like not, they had their challenges. And so it was, I probably should have left sooner if I'm being honest with you, because I look back now and go like, oh, that was bad. I would never do that to someone. But, yeah, it was like it ended up being a pretty natural transition, even though it felt very intense to me mentally and emotionally. But yeah, we took care of them as a client for maybe 6 months and then parted ways and it was fine. And, you know, essentially like passed my job off to a friend of mine. She ran it for a while and then like she came and ended up working for us as a copywriter for a time. So like it's all, you know, very small universe, but it's, I mean, if I had it to do over again, I probably would have freelanced for longer. I probably would have done it on the side for longer to just build up like a better kind of like financial foundation for myself, because it was like very stressful to go from I'm working a job and I'm like in my 20s. And so I'm not saving that much, but I also didn't really need to. Like, it was one of those, like, I was at a very different point in my life than I am right now.
Yeah.
And if I could have looked into the future a year and said, like, gosh, if I'd stayed at my job for like 4 more months and just put that money away, I would be a little bit less stressed if this client wasn't paying me on time, right? So hard lessons learned, but I think it was also a different time. You know, freelancing 11 years ago was not the same thing. It's not as widely accepted or understood as it is now. And I felt like I had to choose. It didn't feel like I had an option. Also, it was kind of a competitor, so probably couldn't have actually done both at the same time.
It might have been a little tricky. That's quite a big moment though, like when you actually go, yeah, I'm going to jump into this and start a bank account to go with my check and make that business. So it's really cool.
Yes.
It's very
I
inspiring.
had last year, I was going through and doing all of our like certified woman-owned business certification, and you have to dig up all of these documents. Like, yeah, that's my other hot tip. If you ever want to do it year one, because it's so much easier to find a stub from your first deposit in your bank account from a year ago instead of 11, know, or like all those things. But it was a bit of a trip down memory lane because I was like, oh my God, like this is my handwriting from 11 years ago, writing this check for our first investment that we put in the bank account. And, gosh, if I could have told her then what I know now.
I know, right? There's so much in hindsight where you look back and you're like, would I do that differently? But there's only one way you ever do it, right? And that is forward. And so you can look back and make all of those decisions, but it's great to be able to like pass some of those tips off now as we can. So
yes,
let's jump forward a decade. What does Week of the Website look like now?
Oh my gosh. You know, it has been a really lovely week. Like, we're doing a lot of what feels like spring cleaning in terms of just like, we went through and updated our sales deck. We have a new portfolio page. Like, we're going through and tackling a lot of these projects that, you know, kind of always get put to the wayside while you're really, really busy in business. And it's been incredible to see everybody kind of stepping into their roles. So, you know, we have our core like Week of the Website offerings that we've been doing since 2014. And, you know, we do 1 week, 2 week, 4 weeks. And those projects kind of go on and you know, there's various numbers of them going on at any given time. We have an amazing team of developers and project managers. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones who are kind of managing the day-to-day projects. We have a lovely operations manager, Katie, who is just absolutely my right-hand woman. And then some great fractional leadership support on finances and chief of staff that really helps me kind of guide the company. And then some great folks who assist us on the agency side and then help me keep my email straightened out on the personal side and calendar. And, you know, the team, most of them are contractors.
Okay.
But we've created this really special cooperative environment where, you know, it really does feel like a super cohesive group that work very collaboratively together. So that's really fun, really exciting. We're actually going through the hiring process right now to bring on our first like business development representative. And what that will mean is that in like the next year, I will be transitioning to focusing only on our enterprise and commerce sales. So for the last 10 years, I've been doing all of the sales with my former business partner and with our ops manager. And it's now the time where we're going through and like creating all of those documents for a sales playbook and, you know, making sure all of that's dialed in because like it's been in here for a really long time. And now we have to transition it to someone else. And it's just been amazing. Folks are just, they're just owning their jobs. They're standing really tall in their roles. And I think it's just like a really happy time right now.
So that is so cool. I can tell just from the way you talk about your team that you must be an amazing person to work with. And
I mean, there are amazing people to work with. So I'm the lucky one.
It's a hard-earned thing, though, to run a business really well and to be a really good employer and to create this team that is cohesive. Like, how have you done that? Obviously, it was you and your business partner at the beginning, and then you've like added people in, well, like what was the process like of bringing people into your team and making sure that they kind of grasped the values and the concepts of We Are the Website?
Yeah, I think one thing that's nice is that like how we call our values, like what we describe our values as, you know, has probably like subtly changed from a marketing perspective over the years. I mean, I know it has. Like if I look at the docs from 2 years ago, right? If you're not evaluating those every year, like you should be, because the specificity of those values, I think, changes the deeper you get into your business. But, you know, I've had a couple of good bosses and a couple of bosses that I've, let's say, learned a lot from. And I'll always remember how I felt in those moments when I was working for someone who didn't respect me. And I think what I've always wanted to do, like more than build websites, more than work with clients, is to create an environment where people really feel like they can be creatively expressive, can be driven towards a goal, and can be in like a mentored environment where they feel like they always have the opportunity to get better at what they're doing. And I also think like we're a small business. The last 10 years have been wild. Like there are moments where things have been tough. There are moments when things have been like really amazing. And one of the things that we've tried the hardest to do, for better or for worse, is to develop a culture of honesty so that, you know, when we're selling websites like hotcakes and things are really busy, we can say, hey, I know it's really busy right now. Like, keep an eye on your own bandwidth and communicate to us, because we're never going to punish you. But I do want to make sure you have the workload that you need, right? Likewise, when we go through slower times, we want to communicate that to our team so that they feel like we understand that they are people working a job for a reason. And I don't know, you just like wake up every day and you try to do your best. And there are so many ways in which we are imperfect. But if I do nothing else in this world, like that's the thing I feel like I'm the most proud of for our company, is I continue to be in awe of the people that we work with. And I'm not allowed to do the first round of hiring anymore because my ops manager was like, you could make friends with a brick wall. Like, I just really like people. But, you know, I think we have a very special like constellation of folks that just like show up for each other all the time. And I'm so like proud of that.
That is amazing. And I think that shows such vulnerability that you bring to your role, that you are willing to just show up and be real with the team and be like, hey guys, we're in this together. But that is enormous, and obviously something you've really intentionally built into the way that you run your company. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not for everybody, right? Like working for a small business, there's volatility. There's always changes. You know, every time there's a product shift or something changes in Squarespace as a platform, or, you know, there's broader shifts like a move towards AI and generative technology, or even like macro, you know, movements like, you know, some level of recession indicators in the US. Those are things that are like not in my control. But I think the thing we try to remember is that the thing that we can control is how we communicate with each other, how we keep folks in the loop, and just try to, you know, show up as honestly as you can, also without freaking people out. I think without sounding patronizing, it is this constant balance between, you know, in parenting, it's the same, right? You're not trying to like dump problems down to your kids. But if they come to you and ask, you want to be able to feel like you have the environment where you can talk to them and tell them. Part of that is like, we need our team to be honest with us about like, how was this project scoped? Was it, you know, underscoped? Like, was it too hard? Was this client unprepared for the process? You know, what we ask people to do is not simple. Like, it's a pretty rigorous and intense process. I think it's great, but it is like work for all involved. And unless we're cultivating that kind of like two-way street of honesty in the team, I can't trust them to tell me if something's not working. And I need them to tell me if something's not working, because I'm not building the websites anymore, right? Like I was for a really long time, but I'm not, and I'm not supposed to. Sometimes I do, and I know I'm not supposed to. I like took on a pro bono project. I have 2 this month, and I don't know. I just felt like I needed to. And every time I do that, you know, I just realize like, oh my God, this feels good, but I'm not supposed to do it because it sucks everything else away. Yeah. And I always end up with a better appreciation for our team after I come out of doing those projects. So
it's hard to keep that balance as like in business. And I think it would be, it's true even as a freelancer of the like working on the business, you've got to get through your emails, you've got to get your billing done, and then also staying creative and understanding the tools you're working with and making time for that. Have you got any like pearls of wisdom that you've discovered over the years of how to hold that balance?
I think it really comes down to what you want for the future of your business, right? Christy Price, years ago.
Love her.
I think we were prepping for an episode for one of her podcasts, actually. And she was like, she asked, at what point did you decide you were going to have an agency versus just be a builder? And I think about that a lot, right? Because it's a completely different set of circumstances and responsibilities. I think every business evolves. You know, I built websites until my son was born, like literally. I was in the middle of a project when I had him. And
hold on a minute, I've just got to hit publish before you come out.
I felt so bad. Luckily it was a friend of ours. Actually it was Molly who took my job when I left my job and then came back and did work with us. But yeah, I mean, and when I came back, I took like very little time off. But when I came back, I realized like I can't do the cadence of our, 5-day projects. I'm pumping. I don't have a nanny yet. Like it's not going to work. And we had to very quickly completely change our model to accommodate that. Well, our margins were not ready for that. It was not good. And so it was a huge moment of transition to figure out, okay, now how do we bring in like other designers so that we can keep doing this? Well, more projects, more responsibility, more team members, right? It mounts. And so I think to kind of circle back on your question of working in your business versus working on your business, I think if you're someone who aspires to be, a acclaimed designer and builder, but not have staff, team members, etc., to some extent, you're always going to be doing both because that's how it is, right? For me, I am going through the very hard realization of like my time is not as valuable to this group of people making edits to a client site as it is having conversations with other people in our industry, like being on sales calls, working on some of these things like our finances and, marketing. It's weird for someone who is at their core a creative and a builder, but like I had some time this week where I was looking at my schedule and I was like, oh my God, I've got this networking call and this meeting and this review and this, and I have to get edits on this site done. And there was a little voice in my head for like the first time that was like, this is a pro bono project. Your business relies on you to continue to push it forward. And so we have to put these things in the right places because there's no way for you to do pro bono work if you don't take care of this other stuff. So I think that is a weird realization for people to get to, which is like, there's no business to take on work for nonprofits you feel passionately about. There's no job for our devs. There's no work for our PMs if I don't keep pushing on those things that are like less directly connected to the client experience. That's just a weird realization to come to. It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
But I think good, because I felt like a sense of calm of like recognizing, oh, this is the job. Like when I'm in meetings now, I'm not like, this meeting is keeping me from my work. The meeting is my work.
Yeah, that's a really big thing we've kind of started to learn to talk about in our team as well, of like, you know, put these meetings in your calendar, like schedule them in, even if they're just between our team members, because that is the work. And that, yeah, I mean, I think we've all been in those meetings where we're like, oh my goodness, I need this to finish because I've got to get back to my work. And even just mentally shifting to like, no, this is my work. When I'm going through my emails, like that is part of me keeping my business running well. When I'm, you know, replying to these messages on social media, that doesn't have to happen at 11:30 at night. That can be a part of your job that you do during your work hours. And it's a tricky shift.
Yeah. I mean, especially in creative industries, right? Because obviously you're here for a reason. You do this for a reason. It's not because it's like, you know, this is not the most lucrative work that's ever been invented. Let's be clear. Like there are probably easier ways to make more money, but there's a reason why everyone is here. And so I get how hard that divide can be. I can't evangelize for this because I haven't really been a devotee of it for a very long time, but I have been trying really hard to block off time to just focus on individual tasks. And giving things that space does feel nice because it's like, this is my time budget for the day. I can spend X amount on this and X amount on that and X amount on this. And at the end of the day, I have to go home and like do my other job of being a parent and a partner. But it feels like the biggest growing pain for the transition from working for yourself to being an entrepreneur. Like, and I think if you want to build a business, it's just a different thing than working for yourself. And I mean that from the turning point of like having employees and having people that work with you. You know how this is. You have a similar thing. We implemented, there's a book called Traction. It's based on this operating system, the entrepreneur's operating system, where you have like a pretty rigid schedule of like meetings. And in those meetings, they happen in a very specific way. And I'm like not that kind of person in general, but I've found so much freedom in like every Tuesday I show up knowing that I'm going to have 3 meetings back to back to back. And I know exactly what's going to happen in those meetings and what we're going to talk about. And we are getting so much done. So I think that's the other thing for creatives that become entrepreneurs and become, you know, folks that build their own businesses is like embracing the moments where structure frees you.
Yeah.
And prioritizing space for creativity. They're 2 different things.
Definitely, because you're always trading off something, right? Like if you spend a little bit of time over here, something else is being sacrificed along the line, whether it's something in your personal life or whether it's another task that you're not getting done. And so just being really aware of that balance and then maximizing the parts that are really important is a huge learning curve. And like you said, particularly when you have staff, you know, it's different when it's just yourself and you can be like, that's fine. Like I can just work a little bit later or I can push these things around and I'm the only one that has to be responsible for that. But when you have the responsibility of staff and people relying on you to like give them work and to give them direction and like I have to show up and I have to have these things done.
Yeah. Like I can't be a mess. Like my life, my schedule, it can't be a mess because everyone here is relying on us being able to pull together as a team. Like I'm not trying to put myself in the position of like, only I can do this. Like that's BS and completely untrue. It is though that like I am a member of this little organism that we've created. And just as I need everybody else to show up, like doing their best and being their best selves, I have to do that too. But I think it's so easy to get pulled into that kind of undertow of like, there's so much going on. I have so much to do. It's tough though.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you recently had an amazing accolade of being named one of Inc. magazine's Female Founder 500. That is incredible. How did it feel to have that recognition? And like, has it had any impact on your business? How did it come about?
It was completely surreal. We haven't put ourselves up for very many of these awards, right? It's not really in my ethos. It's just not my personality, but it felt like the right moment. It came at a really interesting time because the week before, my business partner and I decided to part ways. And a lot of people were like, oh, is this so awkward? Because we won it together. And I was like, no way. This is the victory lap. Like, this is like a perfect moment to not memorialize, it's still going on, but like to mark time as here's what we did together for 10 years. I think the impact for me, like, my father was an entrepreneur. Inc. came to our house. Like, that was a magazine that was just like on our coffee table all the time. Wow. And so I think growing up in an environment that I saw what it took to build a business from the ground up. Like, they took over my playroom when I was, young, and I would wake up in my pajamas and like go to the bathroom and hear my dad's, secretary at the time, like, hello, Mechanical Products, how can I help you? It's like, that was my life when I was a little kid. And, I would tiptoe over the building plans they were working on. And so I think it felt like, gosh, there's so many hard parts of this journey. Like, this has been a really interesting, challenging year. And to be able to see your work in the context of some of these other really incredible people, imposter syndrome is real. Like, every day you wake up and going like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. I try to know what I'm doing really hard, but I don't always know what I'm doing. And I think in that moment, it was just like a huge, deep breath and reassurance to keep going, because you do anything for 10 years. We're actually going to hit 11 on Friday. And you do anything and you're going to question whether or not it's the thing to keep doing. But it was kind of like the why. Like, why? Like, what did it mean to write a book? What does it mean to run a company? What does it mean to like build websites for people? What does it mean to try and build this business? Part of that recognition that actually hit me the hardest was they recognized us as like wellness warriors, specifically for the approach that we try to take with our company, which is like, we're really websites built by people. And, for example, like Katie, our ops manager, she was like, can we move this meeting back 45 minutes? It's my son's like Olympic field day at school, and I would really want to be there. And to me, she knew my answer was going to be yes. I gave her like a little cheeky line of like, I would never stand in the way of your child's, gold medal ambitions.
Olympic dreams, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the kind of business that we run. There have been times where someone's been like, hey, my partner is sick, and there's another designer to step in for them, or like whatever. And that's the greatest reward for me, is because we've worked really hard to build this place where people feel like they can show up and be themselves at work. Yeah. And I was like, okay, great. If I never sell another website for the rest of my life, we've done enough that the place that we've tried to create is recognized, and the work that we've put into truly being as balanced of a company as we can be at our size is there. And I think that was the thing that made it feel very like 360 for me, is I could go my whole life without getting an award for anything, but it was really special to get that one at that time. Yeah. And it's just been it's a really fun like reminder of like, yeah, this is good and it has value and you should probably keep going.
That's amazing. I think that's one of the things that I've found is one of the unexpected privileges of running a business, is being able to do those kind of things where you can set priorities for your team, and you can say, yes, we value your family more than like this arbitrary deadline that we set for ourselves, or, obviously we have to get work done and we have to pay bills. Otherwise, like, we can't do this. So there's the balance of it. But I think that privilege of being able to make those decisions as an employer and being able to set up a place where people can thrive, it's really taken me by surprise. And it's been one of the things I have enjoyed most.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this life is short and this world is huge. And I think whatever impact you make on it, no matter what you're doing, you have the chance to make it a good impact or not a good impact. And I think just showing up every day and trying to do that. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I get so happy when I hear about our team members just like taking on new life challenges. One of our devs was in Japan and this week, and I was just like, I'm just so happy to see you doing this. This, like, there's a couple of podcasters from the US that coined this term shine theory, about how like they don't really believe in competition with others. It's like when you shine, I shine. When you're successful, I'm successful. That's a reflection of both of us. And I feel that so much with our team and so much with the people around us is I'm just like, they're just good people and I want to see your life be good.
Amazing. I want to come and work for you now. I'm like sitting here going like, can I quit my job and come work with you guys?
I mean, Hannah, I think I've tried to hire you way before. I would do it.
We could just hire each other. It'd be great.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about this kind of collaborative environment is that we've all been able to create, right? Like, it's super cool to see this be an extension of that. We talk to other people in the community, and it's like, hey, can you help me with this? Or I'm stuck on this. Someone else shared their new website, and it's like in another world that person would be my competitor, but like I'm actually really excited to see their success, but also then be like, you did this thing that's like different than how we're doing it, and to have them very openly share like, yeah, that like really helped with this conversion or this, you should try it. Like, that's not something that happens in other spaces. People are like, don't talk about my website, like, it's different. So I think that's just like, you try to make that a part of that approach, a part of your life. I'm like a person. Of course, I have bad days and get cranky and, have things that are probably not ideal, but you do your best you can.
And I think that's such a good reminder. Like, if you are new to the Squarespace world and listening to this, like, what we are saying about this community is not just made up. Like, if you jump onto any of the forums, if you become a part of any of the Slack groups, like, this is genuinely the attitude people bring. So if you're new and you're learning or you want some advice, do reach out, because there is so much help and so many people willing to kind of bring this attitude to sharing their knowledge.
Well, I've been super interested. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but I've also been very interested in SquareKicker's approach to this, because the way that you all have opened up templates and kind of encouraged people to make them and have them be a part of that. It's really, I think, super interesting because, you all are a tool. You've built this tool for people to use. There is this perception of this is kind of a one-to-one thing. Your business, their business. But by building the template, store and that opportunity for other people to make templates, you've really broadened it into more of a community effort and a community guided tool in a broader, more visible way. It's just so cool. I really love it.
Oh, thank you so much. We have like our kind of overarching mission statement is to empower people to live the lives they want. We kind of talked about like, what are we doing here? What are we building for? And there was this like, well, we want to help people build more websites, or we want to help people work less, or like, we didn't want to dictate those things. We wanted them to be able to make those decisions for themselves. So what can we build with our team and our expertise that empowers that for designers? And once we had built out a bit of the SquareKicker tool, we talked to the designers that were using the tool and we're like, okay, what's next? What do you need? Like, tell us. And we had these amazing conversations, and it was such a fun journey. And it was all about like, we need something to help with the highs and lows of client work. We really want to create templates, but Squarespace doesn't really have a way of doing that. So we thought it was going to be passive income, and now it has ended up being like a triple time job, right? Like it just didn't work. And so like, cool. We have developers, we've got a team that can uniquely solve this problem. So that's what we set out to do. And it's been so much fun and so cool to see designers be able to use the SquareKicker tools to make templates, because they aren't restricted, right? There's no client saying like, please make it this color, please make the logo bigger. And so the templates that are coming into the store are phenomenal. And every time there's a new one, we're like huddling around the computer being like, oh my goodness, look what this person has created. It's so much fun. It's been such a rewarding experience being able to put that together.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Hey, alongside running this fabulous business and making all of these websites, you wrote a book, literally the book on Squarespace. So Squarespace, from sign up to launch, Why? Like, why did you look at your schedule and thought, hey, I'm a little bit bored with the extra like 30 seconds I have each day. I'm going to write a book. How did that come about, and kind of what's it been like having that book out there?
These are all great questions, Hannah, that I have often asked myself. You know, the book happened in a very surprising way. I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn from the publisher, and they were like, hey, our audience wants a book on this. Are you interested in pitching? And I definitely thought it was spam. 100%. I was like, this isn't legit. But it did enough to catch my attention that I like did some research and looked around, and I was like, oh no, this is like a legitimate technical publisher. And I asked myself the same questions. I had just wrapped up breastfeeding, like that month.
That's a task and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, why not fill my schedule with something else that's going to keep me up late at night, constantly tethered to a machine? Why not? But I was like, you know what? I've never done this before. I've always wanted to write. I love to read. It is, a huge part of me as a person. So that part didn't feel too far outside of my comfort zone. But, writing a book about Squarespace was just going to be different than anything I'd ever imagined. I was like, it's going to be fiction someday when my, kids are out of school or, out of my house.
The retirement plan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll go sit somewhere by the sea and write. And instead it was me at my parents' house on the night before Thanksgiving being like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just going to send this pitch in and boop, we'll see what happens. Like,
Amazing.
I don't have to say yes, even if they say yes, right? Like there's a bunch of steps that need to happen between here and now. My ops manager, Katie, she gave me really good feedback because my son was a year and change at that point. This is November. He was born in September. So 14 months. And she was like, if you're going to do this, do it now because he's going to need you so much more when he's like a toddler. And he's still kind of like in that potato-y phase.
Right. They have a nap.
Yeah, like they're real, but they're not like fully real yet. And I kept, I heard that in the back of my mind, and things just sort of continued to progress. And they were like, okay, the next step is to write an outline. And I was like, well, I can write an outline. So wrote an outline, worked for me, was good to go. And they're like, okay, great, here's the contract. Just kind of kept asking me to like do this thing and then do this thing. And then, the next thing you're writing a book. And I swear to you, Hannah, I joke. I feel like I blacked out so much of those like late nights writing. This is also, I will say, this was like before AI was like really a thing. It had sort of come out. But
How did people write before ChatGPT? I don't remember.
I'm so glad because it would have been so much worse. Like it wouldn't have been me. But it was like a very just you're just hiking and you just keep going and then you look up and you're like,
oh, here I am.
This is the top of a mountain. Okay. And they did a really good job of breaking it out. So like I didn't write the whole book at once, for better or for worse. Like I wrote a chapter at a time or 3 chapters at a time, submitted it, and then they would start sending them to technical reviewers who were people from the Squarespace community, which was super cool. A couple people from my team. I also knew that like, I really wanted this to feel like not something that would be immediately out of
like out of date.
Yeah, because it's very difficult when you're writing about technical tools for things not to very quickly become out of date. So I wrote it really from more the perspective of someone who's like, how do you build a website? And if your Squarespace is your tool, how do you build it on Squarespace? So I interviewed a bunch of people from the community. I asked them their advice and their feedback on like, really specific things or really broad things, because I wanted it to feel like even if where the buttons are change, which it does all the time, every day,
just to keep us
you
on
can
our
still
toes.
read this book 2 years later conceptually and understand what we're talking about. And I actually had a call this morning with the publisher talking about kind of the book as it sits today. And they're about to do like a whole new push for it because we went through and realized, a lot of this stuff is still very applicable. 7.0 and Fluid Engine is still like the predominant way that this tool works. And, now for me, because so many of the things that they're doing are like iterative, but related to the original product, it's still a good primer. So it just happened, I guess.
That is so fun. This has been amazing. I feel like we have journeyed in directions I did not anticipate, which has been awesome. And I've really enjoyed hearing about your
sad
process.
I'm not going to see you in New York this year.
That will be so sad. I know. It's always such a treat to catch up in person.
I know. I would be there.
You have important things to do.
I do. I have a second child coming along due just right around that time period.
Yeah, that feels like it should maybe hit the top of those priority lists that we were talking about.
Yes, it's true. It's true. You
Kids
did ask if I would come and
forcing themselves in there anyway, regardless.
They really do. I was like, my luck, it'll happen while we're at Circle Day.
I mean, it would be entertaining, right?
Do you think they would give that child automatic platinum status? If
they would have to, for sure.
I think they'd have to, right?
Yeah. Like a lifetime platinum status.
Lifetime platinum.
Hey, before we wrap up, I want to run through a couple of reoccurring segments that we do. So the first one is I would love to see your website, and maybe if you show us something on there that you're like super proud of or that you've loved creating.
Yeah. Do you want me to screen share it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've been, as I mentioned to you, doing a lot of work on the site. And in the true fashion of Cobbler's Children, I felt like our whole team was like, our portfolio page is weak. Like, it's not good. What's going on with it? And so we've spent some time over the last couple weeks working on our portfolio. And something that we've done, because we've worked on so many projects over the years, is start thinking about our portfolio not in terms of just individual sites. Like up at the top, we have some recent projects that we're featuring that we think show just like depth and breadth of what we do. But then below, we're now talking about our past work in terms of collections. So like we have the hospitality collection, the wellness collection, the entrepreneur collection, education, nonprofit. And we're doing this in a way for folks to see themselves in these sites, right? For them to get excited about other schools or other nonprofits, other, law firms or professional services or authors. It's also a great way for us to send. I love websites that do double duty for you as a business. Totally. So like we now have the wellness collection linked in our deck, in our proposal when we send this to clients who are in the wellness space. So this has been the most fun.
Smart way of putting together your portfolio. I love that.
Yeah. We
Absolutely
also
brilliant.
have what I call the Library of Congress of Week of the Website sites. That is like literally everything.
Wow.
Just like every time we launch a site, it goes up here and it, gets tagged. And so if you're really into it, you can really go deep and kind of like look at different project types and things. But this is too much to just be our portfolio. We need a little bit of editing. And so it was fun to like work very collaboratively with the team to just imagine like how do we show sites that we want to direct attention to, work we want to do more of, and then how do we also make it clear that like we do a lot of things pretty well.
Yeah, it's really smart from a sales point of view. I love that concept of being able to like pitch and link that collection that's specific to that industry. That is like genius sales level right there. Well done.
Yes, thank you.
Very cool.
Thanks to Will Meyer for some of these very fabulous and tricky customizations here.
Always beautiful. Will has the goods for sure. Yes. All right, our next segment, and I know that you have already shared an enormous amount of vulnerability, but something that has gone sideways, a design confession, if you will, a misstep moment, or something that you've learned from, or something that you can laugh at now that you're maybe a few years in the past.
Oh my God. So many, truly. I feel like I was just having a "this is your life" as you were saying that. We had a client that was they could not believe we did this in a week. They were like, you really do this in a week? Like, you really launch on time? And I'm like, yeah, it's our thing. Like, it's what we do.
Literally in our title.
It is the title of our company. That is the name. And he was like, all right, you know, I'll know it. Like, I'll believe you when I see it. And we get to Friday. And at this point, like, I'm still building the website. Mal's project managing it. We get to Friday. His launch call is scheduled. He's very excited. And I don't know if you will remember this, but there was a global DNS blackout. Like, nothing worked because there had been like a massive hack and had taken down the entire DNS infrastructure. And I just remember sitting there like,
of course,
there's nothing I can do about this. Yeah, this is not related to me. And, you know, at the same time, I'm like, this is probably in the first 5 years of our business. I'm so scared. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry to be telling you this, but we cannot do your launch today. It's not related to us. It's not related to Squarespace. There is a worldwide outage. And he just starts laughing. He's like, my wife sits on the technology deck at the New York Times. I already know about this.
Oh, thank goodness.
She's been on this story for the last 48 hours. And I was just like, oh, thank God. Like, I just remember being like, no, anyone but this guy. Yeah. So it ended up being like a very funny, a very funny coincidence of timing. He's like, it's totally fine. Let's launch on Monday. No big deal. Like, you got the work done. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. That's amazing. What a great story to come back on. Finally, off the grid, what helps you like unplug a little bit and stay creatively inspired and kind of pulls you away from your laptop and gives you a bit of a freshness when you need to come back?
I find that my biggest problem is getting too close to things. And so I really struggle, like, when I'm kind of trying to move into that downtime, I'm trying to pull my brain as far away from like the specificity of my life as possible. I am deeply lately obsessed with a specific murder mystery book series. It is the Thursday Murder Club. It is a book series about a group of septuagenarians who solve murders from their like retirement community.
I love it. That's brilliant.
And I've listened to some as audiobooks. I've read some as ebooks. I'm reading the one that's come out most recently as a physical book. But at night, I try really hard to like end the day reading instead of like scrolling or doing anything else, mostly so I can get some good sleep. And I've just found that like they bring a smile to my face that is just easy, right? So that's been my big thing lately, is just a bit of wind down time at the end of the night with a bit of retiree humor and murder.
So good. That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
I always struggle when I'm into a good book series of like just not being able to put it down. So I'm like,
no self-control.
Great. I'll be like, I'm just going to check out. I'm not going to look at my screen. I'm going to read before bedtime. And then it's like 2 a.m. because I can't put the book down. I'm like, this kind of backfired.
Yeah. We go to Wisconsin pretty often, which is 3 hours from Chicago. And for the last like 6 months, I've been like, I'll drive. I'll just like get in, put my AirPod in. They're like watching iPad or whatever in the back. My husband's working and I'm just like driving and listening to my stories.
Oh, so good. Yeah. That's a good way to get the extra reading hours in, is chuck it in an audiobook. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I am going to stop taking up your time because I know you have places to be and things to do, but thank you so much for spending time having this conversation. I hope it's been really valuable to everyone that's listened. You have shared so much wisdom and so much vulnerability, and I really appreciate you bringing that to our chat today.
My face hurts from smiling, and I blame that on you. So the pleasure is exceedingly mine. And, I'm really grateful for all that you guys do for the community. And it feels like, you're SquareKicker is a very vital component to this whole experiment that we are participating in together. So thanks for having me. Thanks for all you all do.
Oh, it's a pleasure.